Welcome back on Dynamod. Today I want to propose you a video about the rules of the Codex Space Marine 2020 because it's really quite full of rules. I decided to create different videos with a focus each one on a different set of videos, and you can find everything about such rules in the playlist in the description, so not worry about this, and remember that you can find everything there. So now we can start seeing the rules related about the stratagems. Remember that you can use such stratagems if you have in your army any detachment with the keyword Adeptus Astartes. So now we can start and see these stratagems themselves. And one more thing about the stratagems, you have also a little description. So for example, Adeptus Astartes or Necrons or so on. So it means that you can apply them only to that way. And then there is, for example, Battle Tactics, Epic Deed, or so on. This description usually you don't mind because it's not something that it's important. But there are some situations in which you mind because, for example, a certain model or for example warlord or someone can make that you can save the costing point or decrease the costing point of a certain type of stratagem that has this description. So it's better to remember that there is such distinguish in the occasion that you need about. And the first one is Death to the Traitors, that for one command point let you use this stratagem in your fight phase, and when an Adeptus Astartes keyword unit from your arm is selected to fight, until the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit makes a melee attack against an heretic unit, you can reroll the hit roll. So it's good to make that a unit can make melee even without any support if it's going against an heretic Astartes. So okay, it's limited to go against heretic Astartes, but quite good. And then we have Honor the Charter, that for 2 command points let you use this stratagem at the end of the fight phase and select one Assault Intercessor Squad unit from your army that is within engagement range of any enemy unit, and that unit can fight again. And think applying this together with the first that we have seen. So it's quite interesting in the way that you can combine different stratagems to gain even more. But remember that it's applied only to Assault Intercessor Squad as keyword. So it's quite limited but can be quite interesting. And then we have Fury of the First, that it's one of my favorite ones, and for one command point let you use this or in the shooting phase or in the fight phase, and in the phase that you selected until that phase you can add 1 to the attacks it rolls for the Terminator's keyword models. Sincerely, it's perfect because I want to remember you that there is the second launcher on the back of some of the Terminator about the normal one, so it can be quite amazing. So really something that if you are planning to use Terminator you can think about remembering to have as option. And then we have Transhuman Physiology, that has been changed compared to before. Now it's only related about Primaris keyword models, and this is one that you can select in any phase, so it is not limited, and until the end of the phase, each time an attack is made against that unit, and a modified wound roll of 1 to 3 for that attacks fail. So it means that 50% of the dice fail, really quite interesting. And it's irrespective of any abilities that the weapon or the model making the attack can have. If the unit contains 5 or fewer models, this stratagem costs 1 command point, otherwise it costs 2 command points. But in a way it's perfectly worth if you want to save your unit in a certain phase. Really quite amazing one. And then we have Rapid Fire, that for 2 command points let you use these on units with the Intercessor Squad or Veteran Intercessor Squad as keyword, and it's done at the end of your shooting phase. And this is what it changed, because before it was to double the fire, Now it lets you shoot twice, and it's quite interesting because it means that it doesn't involve any particular weapon. So it means that you can have twice the shooting. So you can make that different units as different weapons and then make it shoot twice with such one. And can be really quite an interesting option because it involves also the special weapons that you can give to the Intercessors squad or to the Veteran Intercessor squad. So quite to see attentively this option. And then we had Gemwrought Might that for one command point let you use this stratagem in the fight phase, and when a Primaris, only Primaris unit from your army is selected to fight until the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit makes a melee attack, so only fight and only melee, so, and modified hit roll of 6 automatically wound the target. It's not so great, but it's not bad because if you have a lot of attacks, and because Primaris you can have a lot of attacks, so it means that it's quite possible to wound easily your opponent. So it's something that I suggest to think about using if you need to amplify the way that you can wound your enemy. And then we have Unyielding in the face of the foe, that for one command point you can use this stratagem in any phase, and when an MKX Gravis unit from your army is selected as a target of an attack, until the end of the phase, each time an attack with a damage characteristic of 1 is allocated to a model in that unit, add 1 to any armor saving throwing made against that attack. Remember that usually such armor has a save of 3+, so it means that it goes to 2+. So if your unit is suffering about saturation, can be quite useful. Moreover, because it can ignore in some way the rand of 1, because it makes it equal. And if even it's more, you have like having a bonus. Okay, only to damage 1, but it's not few anyway. And now we have All in Death does duty end, that for 2 command points let you use this stratagem in the fight phase when an Adeptus Astartes character, only character, from your army that has not already been selected to fight in this phase is destroyed. So you have to have a character that has been destroyed before it had the possibility to attack, so does not remove that model from the play, and it can fight after the attacking model units has finished making every attack, and after resolved the destroyed model attacks, it is removed. So it means that even if your mod is destroyed, you can wait that everything is finished in the combat and then make your attacks. So if you wanted to press because you had a power fist or something else, you can still use. So quite important to remember if your character is going to die in the close combat. And then we have Armor of the Contempt, that for 1 command point it lets you use this stratagem in any phase, and you can select as target of such stratagem a vehicle Adeptus Astartes of your army, and until the end of the phase, when that model lose a wound cause a mortal wound, you can ignore such wound at 5+. So it can be useful for chapters like Iron Hands and so on, to save those models from mortal wounds. And then we have Power of the Machine Spirit, that lets you use this stratagem in your command phase and select one model with the keyword Adeptus Astartes Machine Spirit from your army, and until the start of your next command phase, that model is considered to have its full wounds remaining for the purpose of determining that characteristic of its profile to use. It's quite useful about shooting, because you have vehicles like the Repulsor, like the Narrator and so on, that if they lose the wounds, they lose also the option that they shoot good. So I think that it's not bad. Obviously, if you are playing the Iron Hands themselves, it's less useful, but still you count that mod as shooting at full wounds. So it can be really quite interesting if you really need that a model shoot with that weapon. And then we have Wisdom of the Ancients, that for one command point it lets you use this stratagem in your command phase and select one Dreadnought of Adeptus Astartes that is not a Wolfen or a Death Company 1, and until the start of your next command phase, that model gain the ability of the Captain, so reroll the Rit rolls of 1, or the ability of the Lieutenant, so the wound rolls of 1 for all the core of the same chapter units within 6 inches of the model. So it's like having suddenly that model on the field, and it costs only one command point. Okay, so it's like having suddenly another source to gain such bonuses, and because the limitation of the detachment itself, it can be quite interesting to considering such stratagem. And then we have Commanding Oratory, that for 2 command points either you use this stratagem at the start of any of your phase other than the command phase, and select one Adeptus Astartes chaplain from your army that has not recited a litany this turn, and that model can recite one litany that has not already been recited by a friendly model this turn. That litany is automatically inspiring, so you don't have to roll, and takes effect until the start of your next command phase. So it's quite good because it means that you can use this at every time. So if you suddenly need something at the start of a phase, you can apply such. It's great because it means that you can really make that I want that something goes on, and you make it goes on without risking the dice. Really a stratagem to remember if you are going to play the chaplains, because it's amazing. And then we have Combat Revive, that for one command point it lets you use this stratagem at the end of your movement phase and select one apothecary from your army, and then select one friendly infantry or biker unit that is not at the starting strength and is within 3 inches of the apothecary itself. One of the select units destroyed models is returned to its unit with its full wool remaining. I want to remember you that it's this even better than before the option about the apothecary, because before you had to first heal the model that it was wounded and then trying to make it come back. Now instead you make it come back at full wounds directly, so even if you have a model that is wounded, you can gain back a full wounded model. So really quite amazing one, because it means really that you can gain back that model immediately without having to throw dice and so on. Okay, it's limited to only once per turn, because you can use this stratagem only once, but sincerely it's really an amazing one. And then we have a really important stratagem, that it's Relic of the Chapter, that for one command point it lets you use this stratagem before the battle when you are mastering your army, and if your warlord has the Adeptus Astartes keyword, then you can select an Adeptus Astartes character model from your army and give them one chapter relic that he can have, obviously. And each relic in your army must be unique, so you can't have 2 identical relics, and you can't give a model 2 relics, and you can use only this stratagem once unless you are playing the Strike Force battle, in which case you can use this stratagem twice, or the Onslaught battle, in which case you can use the stratagem 3 times. So it means that in a normal game that it's 2000 points, you can have till 3 relics, because you have the one that you can have anyway, and 2 more from these relics, obviously one each time, and so having 2 command points spent. But they can be quite a game changing to allow you to gain a lot of interesting bonuses. And then we have Hero of the Chat, that for one command point you can make that when you are mastering your army, so before the battle, if your warlord has the Adeptus Astartes keyword, you can select one Adeptus Astartes character model from your army, excluding the name characters, and make it gain a warlord trait that it can have, because you have to pay some attention about which ones it can have, and that model is only regarded as warlord for the purpose of that warlord trait, so it's not your warlord, but it has a warlord trait if you pay. Moreover, remember that it must be unique, so it can't be the same as other ones, and you cannot use this stratagem to give a model 2 warlord traits, and I think that it's okay, because otherwise you will have too much. Anyway, you can only use this stratagem once unless you are playing a strike force battle, in which case you can use this stratagem twice, so it means that you can have 3 models with warlord traits eventually, so it becomes really quite amazing if you really are desiring some warlord traits, but you don't only have one general. Now you have 3 warlords rules eventually, even if only one is the real warlord. And in the case of an onslaught battle, you can have a third one, so it's really quite amazing one, because you can create a lot of combination. Moreover, if you think about the command ones, because with the chapter command you can have that the upgrading can have the characters gaining quite amazing warlord traits that you can desire. And that's something that it can make you think about the Ultramarines. We have hit and run warfare, that for one command point you can use this stratagem in your movement phase, and when an Adeptus Astartes biker, land speeder or stone speeder unit from your army fall back, that unit is still eligible to shoot this turn even if it fell back. So it's a way to make that they can fall back and shoot. Okay, limited as the type of units that can use, but still quite amazing. And then we have Hammer of Wrath, that for one command point let you use this stratagem in the charge phase for a unit of Adeptus Astartes jump pack unit that finishes a charge move. You can select one enemy unit within engagement range of that jump pack unit and roll a d6 for each model in that jump pack unit that is within the engagement range for that unit, and for each result equal or exceeding the enemy unit furnace, it suffers 1 mortal wound. So it depends a lot by the furnace of the opponent and the amount of model that you are able to bring in the engagement range. So it becomes really quite interesting in some way, because it can be easy or difficult to make such mortal wounds. Still, it's something that eventually I think that it's worth trying. And then you have Skilled Riders, that let you use this stratagem in your opponent shooting phase when an Adeptus Astartes biker, land speeder or stone speeder unit from your army that advanced is selected as the target of a ranged attack. Remember that the opponent has to be shooting to one of such keyword units, and your unit has to be advanced. Remember that there is such limitation. Until the end of the phase, each time an attack is made against that unit, subtract 1 for the attacks it roll. It's not so good as it seems, because it has a lot of limitations, but in a way it can be worth in the case, for example, that you are going to try to conquer an objective, and this is a way that can save or at least decrease the amount of hits that successfully hit your own models. So okay, only bikes, land speeder and stone speeder, but still quite worthy. And then we have Uncompromising Fire, that for 2 command points it lets you use this stratagem in your shooting phase, selecting one Adeptus Astartes infantry unit from your army that is performing an action. You can find the rules about action in the playlist about the rules for the 9th edition, and I want to remember you that if you do an action, you can't do anything else other than the movement before to doing the action itself. So, if you shoot, you lose the ability to do the action. But with this stratagem, that unit can shoot this phase without that action falling. So it's a way to make that it can do anyway something, even if it's doing an action. So it's quite strategic one to remember that you have, because using actions it's not anymore so limiting for at least one of your units. And then we have steady events that for 2 command points it lets you use this stratagem in your movement phase, and when an Adeptus Astartes infantry unit from your army makes a normal move, until the end of the turn that unit is considered to have remained stationary. You can think that, okay, what is the usefulness of such thing? It means that, for example, the aggressors can move and be considered stayed there. So the haven't not moved, they can fire twice, or think about the intercessors or other similar units. It means that they can use the bolter discipline, and so make that with the rapid fire they can fire twice, or if they are going to use the heavy weapons, they have the same that has been there, so without moving, and so no penalty in the movement. So really quite interesting one. And then we have adapted strategy that for 2 command point it lets you use this stratagem in your command phase if your warlord from your army is on the battlefield, and a combat doctrine, not mind which one, is active for your army. You can select one core unit from your army that is on the battlefield, and until the start of your next command phase, each time a mod in that unit makes an attack, the Devastator Doctrine, Tactical Doctrine, and Assault Doctrine are considered active for that attack. So it means all of them at the same time. Perfect for the Terminators, but imagine that it's perfect suited to realize secondary objective as the one for the Space Marine themselves, that one of them is based on the doctrine that is active. So with this one, it's a way that you can realize that secondary objective or other similar ones, even if it's not active that specific doctrine, because the unit will have all the 3 doctrine active with this stratagem, so quite amazing. And then we have Suppression Fire, that for 1 command point it lets you use this stratagem in your shooting phase when a whirlwind model from your army is selected to shoot, and until the end of the phase, each time this model made an attack with a weapon that has the blast ability, so one of the 2 main ones that it has, because both of them has the blast ability, if a hit is scored for that attack, then until the start of your next turn, the target cannot fire Overwatch or set to defend, and cannot be selected to fight until all eligible unit from your army has done so. So it means that it works your turn, the opponent turn, till turn again to your turn, and it means that so it can last fight, so really. And then we have Terror Troops, that for 2 command points we have this stratagem that it can be activated in your command phase, and select 1 Raver unit from your army. Then that unit gains the Terror Troops aura that it changed from before and much better, so that until the start of your next command phase, while an enemy unit is within 3 inches of that unit, it loses the Secured Objective ability and any similar ability that allows them to control an objective marker regardless of the number of enemy models within the range of that objective marker. So it means that it works both in your turn and the opponent turn, so remember about this. So it's quite amazing, because if you have a unit with objective secured and the opponent also to have, you can make that it lose such ability. It's crazy as strong, because it means controlling the objectives. And moreover, until the end of the turn, each time that Raver unit ends a normal move, an advance or a charge move within 3 inches of an enemy unit that is performing an action, roll 2d6. If the total exceeds the enemy unit's leadership characteristic, the action the unit is attempting to perform immediately fails. So it can even kill actions. Okay, it's not so easy, because usually it needs at least an 8 or 9 to end successfully descending, but quite amazing. And then we have Guerrilla Tactics, that for 1 command point make you use this stratagem in your movement phase when a Phobos keyword unit from your army is more than 6 inches from any enemy models and is selected to move. If the mission that you are playing is using the strategic reserves rules, you can place that unit into the strategic reserves. It means that you can practically redeploy the next turn that unit. So it's really quite interesting, strategically talking, really quite amazing one. And then we have Orbital Bombardment, that it costs 3 command points, but it changed from before. You can use this stratagem in your command phase if an Adeptus Astartes Warlord from your army is on the battlefield, then you select one point on the battlefield and place a marker on that point at the start of your next command phase, so you have to wait one complete turn so your opponent can move away from that point, but it can be used also that you force your enemy to move away. Then you roll a d6 for each unit that is within 6 inches of the center of the marker. Added 1 if the unit being rolled for is within 3 inches of the center of the marker, and subtracting 1 if that unit being rolled for is a chariot. So anyway, if the chariot is within 3 inches, it's the same. And on a 2 to 5, that unit suffer d3 mortal wounds. So at least it's better than before. And on a 6 plus, that unit suffer d6 mortal wounds. The marker is then more moved, and you can only use this stratagem once, and it's good that there is, otherwise it will be quite exaggerated. But it means that you have to use this strategically. Before you needed to damage the chariots and so on, or try anyway to damage amassed troops. Now it works more strategically, because you put, for example, where there is another objective or so on, so it can be really quite strategic type of stratagem, and can give you quite a lot of damage to the enemy once, so it can be quite interesting. And then we have Aspect Scan, that it costs 2 command points, and you can use this at the end of reinforcement step of your opponent's movement phase. You can select one Adeptus Astartes infantry unit from your army that is not within engagement range of enemy units, and that unit can shoot as it were your shooting phase, but its model can only target a single eligible unit that was set up as reinforcement this turn and that is within 12 inches of the unit when doing so. So it's quite good, but you have to pay attention that it's limited to certain characteristics. So you have to have a unit that is an infantry one, and you have that the opponent has a unit that has arrived from the reserve within 12 inches of that unit itself, so pay attention. And then we have Tremor Shells, that it costs 1 command point, and it's relating in the shooting phase about a Thunderfire cannon model in your army. Until the end of the phase, each time that model makes a ranged attack, you have to subtract 1 from the attack's wound roll, and if it is score a hit against a target that it's not Titanic and cannot fly, so it means that Titanic ones and fly units ones are immune to such stratagem, then until the end of the start of your next movement phase, halve the move characteristic of models in the target unit and subtract 2 from advance roll and charge rolls made for that unit. So it becomes really quite good this to stop, or better, to slow down a unit that you don't want that comes close or so on, or goes towards a certain objective. So it becomes really quite strategic if you are planning to use a thunder cannon. You have to remember that it would be wounding worse the units that you are targeting, but at the same time your meaning is that you are going to slow down that unit itself, so it's quite interesting. And then we have Shock and Dive, that for 1 command point let you use this stratagem in your shooting phase when an Adeptus Astartes Shock Grenade keyword and Lance Speeder Storm keyword unit from your army is selected to shoot. Select one enemy unit within 6 inches of that unit, and until the start of your next turn, the select unit can fire Overwatch or set to defend, and each time a mod in the select unit makes an attack, subtract 1 from the attack's hit roll. The problem is that you have to be within 6 inches when you utilize this stratagem from the opponent unit that you are going to target it with this stratagem. But can be quite interesting if you are planning to make that you going to assault with another unit that unit enemy one. So can be quite good. And then we have assault launchers that for one command point it lets you use this stratagem at the start of your charge phase. Select one Adeptus Astartes assault launchers unit from your army and one enemy unit excluding vehicle or monster units within 9 inches of that unit. And that enemy unit can either brace or duck for cover. If it braces, it suffers D3 mortal wounds. If it ducks for cover, then until the end of the turn, subtract 1 from the attack characteristic of models in that unit, and that unit cannot fire Overwatch or set to defend. So it's quite good if you want to assault, because or you do damages, or you forbid that unit to make the Overwatch or the set to defend, so quite interesting. And then you have Meta Bombs that for one command point it lets you use this stratagem in the fight phase, and when an Adeptus Astartes Meta Bomb unit like a tactical squad or an assault squad from your army is selected to fight, select one model in that unit. That model can only make one attack this phase and must target an enemy vehicle unit, so it works only against vehicles with that attack. But if it hit a scored, that unit suffered D3 mortal wounds and the attack sequence ends. So you only have to hit, you inflict 2 D3 mortal wounds and you have not to wound 2. So it can be really quite interesting, but the options that make you use these stratagems are quite limited. But still it's quite interesting because you only need one hit to do such amount of mortal wounds against a vehicle. So quite interesting. And then you have Grave Pulse that for one command point it gives you a rule that it was for all the repulsors, but now in your movement phase when an Adeptus Astartes repulsor field unit from your army fall back, until the end of that turn that unit is still eligible to shoot even though it fell back, because before it was able, because flying, to fall back and still shooting. Now it need this stratagem. And moreover, if your opponent charge phase, when an Adeptus Astartes repulsor field unit from your army is selected as the target of a charge, until the end of the phase, subtract 2 from charge rolls made for any unit that occurs a charge against that repulsor field unit. So the rule about repulsor field that it was for every repulsor. Now, I repeat, it's a stratagem, so take note. And then we have Hellfire Shells that for one command point it lets you use this stratagem in your shooting phase, and when an Adeptus Astartes infantry model from your army shoots with an heavy bolter, a Hellstorm heavy bolter or an Executor heavy bolter, you can only make one attack with that weapon this phase. But if a hit is scored, the target suffers D3 mortal wounds and the attack sequence ends. So you don't have to wound, but only hit and you make D3 mortal wounds. And if a hit is scored against a monster keyword unit, that unit suffers 3 mortal wounds instead of D3. So quite useful if you are going to target some monsters, because you are sure to do at least 3 mortal wounds if you are able to hit him. And then we have Flak Missile that for one command point you can use this stratagem in your shooting phase, and when an Adeptus Astartes infantry model from your army targets an aircraft keyword unit with a missile launcher, you can only make one attack with that weapon this phase, but add 1 to that attack's hit roll, so it's easier to hit that aircraft, and if a hit is scored, the target suffers 2 D3 mortal wounds, and so you don't even need to wound, automatically 2 D3 mortal wounds. So from a minimum of 2 to a maximum of 6 mortal wounds directly. So okay, you have to hit, but otherwise quite nice if you miss something that it's going to target in the aircraft, because at least you can really target them using this stratagem. And then we have Smoke Screen that for one command point you can use this stratagem in your opponent's shooting phase when an Adeptus Astartes Smoke Screen unit from your army is selected as target of an attack, and until the end of the phase, each time an attack is made against that unit, subtract 1 from that attack hit roll. So it's the old Smoke Screen, simply now it's limited to only one vehicle per turn, because you can only use one stratagem of the same time each phase. But anyway, it's quite good, because once to make such effect you had to sacrifice your shooting phase. At least now you know for sure that you can anyway shooting, and when you need you can activate this through the stratagem, so not bad. So we have a lot of stratagems that we can select from, and we have to remember that each supplement that will be released will have more stratagem available for that specific chapter. So we have a lot of choices, and they can improve quite a lot the way that we can solve certain troubles or so on for our army. So take note what are available for the rooster that you are creating, because for example if you are not including a thunder cannon, the one about the thunder cannon is useless. But if you're including some type of unit, you have to remember that that unit has access to certain stratagems, because it can change the way that you approach to the game itself. Anyway, from Dino Mode it's everything. I invite you to put a like on this video, to subscribe to the channel, to ring the bell, and to comment this video if you are interested in something about this video, or you want to suggest me some arguments for other videos. I hope to see you again to the next time.